What's up, guys? It's Carlos from the We're Just Fans podcast. Thank you for joining us this fine evening. We got Poppy with us today. Let him know what's up, Poppy.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. What's going on?
What's going on? What's going on? And of course, we got Rios in the house. Let him know what's up, Rios.
Salud.
Salud.
All right, look at him. Now we need a translation for the boy right there. It's no longer Poppy. It's for Rios now. Hey, man. How you boys doing? We just did a show yesterday on our regular podcast. We're doing another one live today, but for a different reason. Today we're doing it only for what?
We weren't canceled, so progress.
We were canceled. Yeah. No, we today is our what we're doing for Dan. And before we start, I want to give out a big shout out to Dan, man in charge of Let's Talk Sports. This is for Let's Talk Sports here. And again, Dan, if you're watching us, which I know you are, thank you for helping us out, giving us a little platform here with you, and we appreciate you. And as I'm saying this thing, Poppy's over there.
Don't worry about what I'm doing. Don't worry
Poppy's
about what I'm
over
doing.
there like adjusting his camera.
Just keep reading
So
your
professional,
stupid script.
So professional. But no, nonetheless, Dan, thank you so much for having us on there and letting us do this. I thought this was really cool to do a whole episode on honoring the career of JJ Watt. Throughout the whole podcast here today, the show, if you're watching us, by all means, comments, anything, any memories that we may have missed. We're gonna go over what we saw. We're gonna go over the timeline of JJ Watt's entire Houston career, from draft day all the way to his final day with the Houston Texans. And as we go through the timelines, we're also going to give you a little our own fans' perspective, because that's the whole point of this. We're giving you a fan's perspective of what the man meant to our city here in Houston, all his contributions that he did to the city of Houston. But before we do that, we have to know the very beginning. How did this all come about? And so throughout the show, we're going to give you timelines and, of course, our own fan perspective of what we lived through while this was happening. Okay,
With my stuff. I'm sorry.
Yes.
the square right here.
You want me to take the square off, sir?
Can you please?
I actually can. Here, the brand.
It's really messing with me.
I like how we're doing this. Yeah, how we're doing this live. We have no
behind the scenes stuff.
Behind the scenes stuff. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm sure I can, but now I'm just gonna do it to. Actually, I can do it. I'll do it for you. There. Boom. Happy
freedom.
Freedom. Yeah.
Oh, I can do whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Make it big.
Yeah. He just blocks me completely.
So at the time being, I remember we had Quentin Dempson on the show, and we talked about during the 2010 2010 year for the Texans. They had a pretty good offense, I would like to say. They had the Gary Kubiak offense. They were offensively, they were great. They were pretty good. They were contenders, not great, but they were good. They were consistent, at least. As far as the defense, though, the defense was ranked, if I'm not mistaken, it was the lowest ranked defense, like 32nd ranked defense in the NFL out of 32 teams. That's bottom of the barrel.
Damn.
Yeah, bottom of the barrel. And it's, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been also the last year where the Texans wore the all red uniforms with the red jersey and then the red pants.
The pants too, right?
Yeah, and it was they looked like ketchup bottles.
We got demolished every time we wore them. So
we got demolished. It was supposed to be the Battle Red Day, the day where we turn up or whatever the most, and it turns out it's the day we get shown up. Yeah, and so so you're probably wondering, why is this relevant to what we're saying? And simple enough is because at the time in the 2010 season, I can't even remember our defensive coordinator at that time. I really can't. All I know is we had
better not even try to remember.
I want to say it was Vance Joseph.
Was it?
Yeah, I know he was on the staff. Frank Bush was on the staff. Man, it's down memory lane.
We could totally look it up, but we're not. Because what are we, professionals?
It was Vance Joseph. That was because he ended up going to Denver and got a Super Bowl.
Okay, so
Irrelevant.
That's who we had as a defensive coordinator at the time, and things weren't looking great for the Texans, of course, at the time. This was 2010. Nothing's changed. So it was the worst ranked defense in the league, right? They had players, but they weren't playing them as they should have, you know? At the time, our defensive end was a guy known as Mario Williams. Okay. Mario Williams, he was good. I can't lie. He was good. He was selected before in 2005, 2006? Before, yeah, 2006, instead of Vince Young, right?
I was like 2 years old back then, so I don't know.
Yeah, he was like probably was like 2. He's very young here. Anyway, so
he's just a twinkle in his daddy's eye.
yeah, and so that's who we had at defensive end, right? So the Texans that year, they were now Rios before in the 2011 draft. Were they looking for a quarterback then, or what were they looking for specifically?
They're focused on defense. That's when they hired
Who was her
Wade
quarterback?
Phillips. Wade Phillips gets hired. Matt Schaub was a quarterback at that time, so they weren't looking for a quarterback. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They were looking for somebody else. I can't remember what was the. Was it defense?
Yeah, they were looking at defense because they brought on Wade Phillips, and he wanted to rebuild that defense and make it his own. Because I think he changed defensive formation. I want to say before they were like a 4-3, and he changed it to a 3-4 defense.
3-4, yeah, I remember. Yeah, Wade Phillips had that 3-4, the 3-4 defense that a lot of people talked about. That it was very effective. Again, Quentin Dem said it was a very easy defense to read. Like it wasn't overthinking, and he's like that. It was just a great defense. Everybody knew their assignment, kind of a sort of a thing, and that's how it happened, right? So that year, everybody was hoping, I guess, for whatever defensive player was coming out. I can't remember at the time. It was 2011.
Nick Fairley.
It was a Nick Fairley. Yeah, Nick Fairley. That's who it was. Nick Fairley. I think he ended up going to Detroit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Yeah, they were hoping for Nick Fairley. Okay. Then the draft pick gets announced, and the Texans take J.J. Watt, who I believe to this day, I'm pretty sure it was because of Wade Phillips.
He did it himself. He picked them.
Yeah, it had to be because of Wade Phillips. Like Wade Phillips, I'm a true believer to this day. Now I don't know it, but I'm pretty sure Wade Phillips was the guy that brought J.J. Watt to Houston. And needless to say, the fans were not happy.
No, they were not.
They were not happy at all. So guess what? Now I'm not going to play the audio because it's through YouTube, but I'm going to show you the video of the fans reacting to J.J. Watt being drafted. This is at the Texans draft party in 2011. Okay. And this is how people reacted to J.J. Watt. That's them booing. As soon as it was announced that J.J. Watt was...
I mean, to be fair, I don't think they're booing J.J., but...
They were booing the pick itself.
They
weren't the front office type thing.
Yeah,
right.
No, they were booing the pick. They didn't like JJ.
They were booing the pick.
They didn't like JJ for real.
They did not. They did not like JJ.
Little did they know.
Yeah, they didn't know. They didn't know at the time. And JJ at the time, he was making plays over there in Wisconsin, and people were fairly upset. Look at that guy. He was pretty excited.
He's got some opinions.
Yeah,
for sure.
See, look at the thumbs down. Like
thumbs down, bro. That's how you know you're serious.
Yeah. So that is a little bit of how the fans reacted. I'm sure it wasn't just them. It was just some fans in general thought about it that way. Some people had never heard of. What's that?
The Houston media as well. Like
the Houston. Oh yeah, believe me, I'm getting there. Houston media as well.
Let me ask you guys something while we're talking about the subject. I was obviously not really watching the Texans.
Were you born yet?
At this time? I think I was like in pre-K when he got drafted. But
you look the oldest.
it's just stress. What can I say? Rios knows a lot more about that than I do.
Yeah.
Pero what did you guys think? Because obviously I don't have an opinion on draft night, on none of that stuff. Obviously I'm happy to see the player that he became, but like, what do you guys think? Since you guys were, in your 40s when that happened, like how do you guys react?
I think Rios could just apply to ARP.
No, I remember it. So I kind of wanted Nick Fairley. I didn't boo. I was like, I was like, it's like, man, whatever.
Did you know anything about JJ at the time? Like,
I was watching it on the TV, and they were showing something. I was like, he might be all right. Like I said, he might be all right. Little did I know.
3-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
First ballot Hall of Fame, but yeah, I was like, he might be good. Like, I wasn't not gonna lie, but maybe they picked him for a reason, and it kind of worked out.
Mm-hmm. For me, I was transitioning over from the Raiders at the time.
The dark side.
Yeah, dark side. And so I was transitioning. Don't say it. Stop it. Stop it. I was transitioning over because at that time I was like, well, I'm not going to go anytime over there, so might as well root for the home team, right?
They were in Oakland at the time still, right?
Correct. They were the Oakland Raiders at the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to a couple of Houston games, right? So I decided to go to that same year. But before that, when I saw the pick of JJ Watt, I think like Rios, I was like, okay. I wasn't like boo because I honestly didn't know much about him at the time.
Yeah, I didn't even.
And I'll be honest, I didn't know much about him. I hadn't done any research on him. I was just like, okay, so the Texans got JJ Watt, and that's what. So the people that reacted that way, maybe they saw something that they didn't like, and then they were just like boo and automatically reacted to it, And
well, I think part of it was like a full-time start. He wasn't like a 4-year starter or 3-year starter at Wisconsin. Like he was a walk-on from the same college that Antonio Brown was at. And he was a converted tight end to become a defensive end.
Yeah, he played tight end at that school, and then he became a defensive end right there at Wisconsin. And before that, he was like when he was in that same school with Antonio Brown, he was delivering pizzas. He was delivering pizzas for I can't remember for what company, but he was delivering pizzas. And then like according to what I've read, it's that there was a kid that ordered a pizza and JJ Watt delivered it. And he's like, wow, my hero that I watched on TV is delivering me a pizza. And apparently that was motivation enough for JJ Watt to transfer over and just completely changes. I'm not saying change his work ethic because that would be wrong. I don't know what it is, but it just became a motivator for him to really, to transfer out and how do you call it? And, make it or try to make it to the NFL, something along those lines. Now,
he flipped the switch, basically.
He flipped the switch. Yeah. He flipped the switch for lack of better words. He flipped the switch. So now going back to the video of those guys overreacting or booing him. Honestly, it wasn't really even them because there was a Houston media, like you said, and I wanted to show you this last part here. And it was an article that came out also around that time when the Texans picked up. Literally, the title of it was, I feel like a bit over dramatic, but
it was
over dramatic. This is the title. It's on Culture Map Houston. It says this is the title of it. The Texans will rue the night they took Pizza Boy JJ Watt over Nick Fairley, Houston lover. And
it's funny. I share this article every single year on draft day. For the last 11 years. I've been sharing this article. I'm gonna share it again this year.
Yes, it is an article that really, I feel like overreacted. I mean, it's what the article said. I'm just quoting it. It went above and beyond. Really, if it was a top shelf of like complete,
and there's that.
Somebody has some passion behind it though.
Like, it should be
a meme. They will rue the day.
Yeah, it should be a meme. It should be a meme that says like scenes before dramatic changes or something happened, And it was so that's what the media, some of the fans felt like. But here's the thing. They did this without knowing much about the guy. They had low expectations to begin with. Now, here's the thing. It's human nature to do that. So I don't blame these guys at all. It's just how things tend to be. They didn't know. And at the end of the day, it just is what it is. It happened. And now we were lucky enough to be witnesses of the man's career. Rios, what is Nick Fairley doing right now?
Delivering pizzas.
Probably doing what we're doing, sitting on the couch. I haven't heard his name in years, man. Like he's bounced around and didn't pan out.
And no disrespect to Nick Fairley either. It's just like it just didn't. Sometimes the best lesson about this though is that sometimes things aren't the way it seems. You can't judge a book by its cover. He's a perfect example of that because immediately was not received too well. And people don't really talk about that sometimes. You know, they go over for the whole JJ Watt thing and all this and that, but they don't really talk about that. But I think it's important to talk about it.
Yeah.
So going back to the very first Texans game that I went to back in 2011, that same year that JJ Watt got drafted, that's when the Texans defense just went from the worst defense in 2011 to probably top 3, top 4, maybe top 5 even, but they were up there.
They were elite. It was an elite
They
defense.
were elite. That was that year that I will always argue with anybody that was a Super Bowl caliber team. They could have gone to the Super Bowl. Don't believe me? Quentin Dem said it himself, who was part of that defense when we had him on the show.
Yeah.
They could have gone because it was finally a balance. The offense stayed consistent and even did better. You know, they had tight ends. They had Owen Daniels. They had Joel Dreesen. You know, they had tight ends that would work a rotation, that served as blockers and serve as offense, right? As opposed to now where you kind of have our tight ends as blockers, you know, just blockers or whatever. But they had weapons on offense along with Arian Foster, Andre Johnson, of course, and now the addition of this elite defense. Now you had Mario Williams, who was on his way out. You knew that. I felt like another reason why JJ Watts, you know, kind of came in here was because we felt like Mario Williams was not gonna come back to the Texans, and he was gonna ask for big money. And he sure did. I think, if I'm not mistaken, was it $94 million from Buffalo at the time?
It was like 90 plus million.
90 plus million. It was in the hundred, close to the hundreds, whatever it was. And he went to Buffalo the following year, and he didn't really get to finish off that season. Coincidentally, I went to watch that Raiders Texans game when I went. Very first game I ever went to, right? 2010. I get there, and I had just bought. This is before I started looking into contracts. I had just bought a Mario Williams jersey. Okay, the old Reebok ones, right? And so I just bought a Mario Williams jersey. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm there, whatever. I'm watching it, and I get there, and I think I don't remember if it was a first half, second half. Mario Williams goes out, pec injury. So similar to the one that Whitney Merciless had a few years ago with the Texans, pec injury, completely out for the season. In comes in JJ Watt. I'm sure he was in the rotations before, but now JJ Watt has like a starter role, right? And now we're watching this new draft pick come in, and he's not doing bad. He's doing pretty good. You know, the Texans season. This is like mid-season. I want to say mid-season probably.
Yeah.
The Texans are doing pretty good. You know, they're winning, and I'm like, all right, great. I'm enjoying the ride. Okay, now let's fast forward. The Bengals game. Okay. Bengals game during the season. Texans needed to win this game in order to finally go to the playoffs. Never been before in the franchise history. It took them Texans. It took them 9 years to do it. And
was that really the first time we went to?
That is correct. 2011.
Wow. Okay.
JJ Watt's rookie year. And
coincidence? I think not.
Yeah, coincidence. Yeah, exactly. So I look, and by this time, Matt Schaub had already gotten hurt, and we're riding with our backup. Our third backup quarterback, TJ Yates, because we had the Bengals player. We call him still this day, because we had Matt Leinart, who was a backup, and then he got hurt. He was a lefty. He got hurt, and then in comes in TJ Yates, and actually does quite well. I mean, well enough to get us through. And he plays through, and then I remember that Bengals game. The Bengals at the time, they had Marvin Lewis as their head coach, and Andy Dalton,
AJ Green.
Like they honestly had a pretty good offense. I think is that when they had Pac-Man Jones on defense, or is that a little later? I can't remember. Yeah, like they had some people in there. Like they were contenders. Like you could take them seriously at that time, but I think their downfall was Marvin Lewis, Marvin Lewis as their head coach. So I remember that game. It goes down to like the last few seconds of the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, Rios?
Oh, it was the last few seconds of the second quarter.
Second quarter, okay. Where TJ Yates scores that? No, because wasn't it? Because that's when TJ Yates scores
the regular season game or the playoff game?
The regular season game that sent the Texans over to
it was the last few seconds of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, last few seconds of the fourth quarter. It's one of the greatest things ever. And I think the reactions are still on YouTube from years back, 13 years ago, whatever. And there's still that moment where TJ Yates just throws a dime to Kevin Walter, number 83.
Man,
Was it Kevin Walter? I think it was Kevin Walter.
it takes me back.
Down the middle. He's the only guy open. Texans score a touchdown, sends the Texans to the playoffs for the very first time. Amazing. JJ Watt, good game, right? Here's where I'm going with this. That year, we go and face the Bengals in the wild card to get to the divisional, right? So we face the Bengals again within 2 weeks time, maybe 2-3 weeks time.
Yeah, it was within the same 30-day calendar basically.
Yeah, it was very quick. So we face the Bengals again. So this time it's at NRG Stadium. For the first time, NRG is just packed. And I was watching it from work. I wasn't even working at that time when I was too busy. We had put a TV at my old job. We had put a TV right by the cash registers, and I'm there selling generators and stuff like that while watching the game, not even paying attention to my customer.
Yeah, I was watching a 1-year-old's birthday party.
Yeah, there you go. And we're watching this thing go by because, again, it was an exciting time for the city of Houston. Texans never been to the playoffs. And it was and we're just watching it. It's going pretty well. Basically, it's going the Texans' way. There was a few little scares here and there. The Bengals were putting on a little bit of a show. Pretty good game, to say the least. An AFC, the AFC wildcard game, 2011. Check it out if you get a chance. And then finally, the one moment, the moment where I felt like it began and it cemented the legacy of JJ Watt was when Andy Dalton throws it, and I can't remember to who it was, but it's intercepted by JJ Watt, and for a pick six. Big JJ Watt just going, because remember he was like a bigger dude. He wasn't he was really big at that time. He wasn't as lean as he is now or whatever. But he just it's hilarious because he looked very slow doing it, but I'm sure this man was just taking off. On camera it looked that way. Like I'm sure if I did it, it looked like it would take me like 30 minutes just to get there. Like
Achilles doing it.
You telling this story is actually making me remember that moment because, like I said, at the time I wasn't really watching the Texans, but because they were in the playoffs, I remember it was on TV at work or whatever, and I just remember him, like you said, like his big fridge looking ass just running. I think it was like 30 yards or something, but
yeah,
like he was running so slow, like you would have thought it was only 10. but that's a good memory that you just put in my mind. I haven't thought about that moment in forever.
I was running around the living room like, yes, like
you were probably running faster than he was.
I waited 9 years to see a playoff game, and like we're actually winning. We have a chance to win.
So he picks JJ Watt. Excuse me, JJ Watt picks Andy Dalton, goes straight for that pick six. Now, off the top of my head, I can't remember if he had a sack or anything on that game or whatever, but he just, that to me, that cemented that was the very beginning of his legacy right there. And the Texans won that game. They moved on to the following round, which was the divisional game against the Baltimore Ravens, and the Texans lost barely. Yeah. It was a very close game,
13-6.
And I think the Ravens and the Texans defense were equally as elite at that time. This is when Ed Reed was in his prime. They had Ray Lewis, like they had all these great players at that time. That elite defense. I think the Baltimore Ravens defense at the time was ranked, I think, one spot higher than the Texans defense was. And the Texans defense was elite. Those were memorable games. Those made you proud to be a Texan. And coming from another team at that time, I was like, this is the team that I want to root for. It instilled great memories, and I was excited to see, what the future held for JJ Watt. I feel like, and that's why this is so personal to me, because JJ Watt started when my fandom for the Texans started. That same exact year.
He was there the whole time. Same with me.
It was there the whole time, and he was part of that. And I think I always take that to heart. So even when people like talk, when there's always going to be critics no matter what, I always felt like it was my duty to defend JJ Watt as much as I could, even though he never needed it. And because people always criticize. That's the thing. It's always easy to criticize, but it was just like it always felt like a duty, to do that and to defend them, because he was taken in by the same city that at the beginning neglected his or didn't like his pick here to the city. Like suddenly he won them over instantly like that, to the point.
He was always that kind of guy too.
He is to the point where he was actually in a rap video.
I forgot about that.
He was. Oh, you don't believe me?
No, I forgot about it. I don't.
Yeah. No.
Can you pull it up? Can you pull it up?
Yes, I have it. JJ Watt was in a rap video. I'm not gonna play the song so we don't get like flagged on YouTube.
Jamie, pull it up.
Yeah. So let me show you exactly what I mean by I'm gonna put like a small little clip, but it's gonna be on mute so we don't get flagged or whatever. But let me show you. He was in a rap video with I think it was like hold on, let me 1 second. Let me I'm gonna share the screen where he's at in that video. He was in a rap video. Made a brief appearance, being all, it was with the Slim Thug and Paul Wall. Yeah, looking
Slim
tough.
Thug,
Looking
Slim
JJ Watt.
Thug,
Him
yeah.
and Brian Cushing. I think Arian Foster's on there too. And again, I'm gonna put it on mute so you can see it. There it is.
Oh,
Paul
look at
Wall
him.
rapping.
Man, I forgot about
Cushing. You got JJ Watt.
Paul Wall, baby.
Paul Wall, baby. He's there with the Phantom Grills. Like it's yeah. So
man,
after that cements you. Like
JJ Watt is better than your favorite player. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, exactly. My defensive end is better than your defensive end, kind of a thing. After he came out on that, like, whole city was like, oh, you know what I mean? Like that was it.
He was an honorary Houstonian at that point.
Yeah, you're an honorary Houstonian at that point. You can't get any more Houstonian than how do you call it? Slim Thug, Paul Wall, and Zero. And so that's as Houston as you can get right there. And so he was in that video. Like imagine that he was in that video. And so people are excited the following season, 2012, and that's when JJ Watt just goes up the charts.
Blew up.
That 2012 year. Yeah,
I think that's the year. That year, the second year jump he made. I think he got like 20 sacks that season.
Yeah,
20 and a half.
He went from 5.5 to 20 and a half. Like,
he started every game, like, and he looked elite. I feel like that was the year when I really started watching the Texans a little bit more regularly, and I was like, "Who the hell is this guy, man?" Like he dwarfs over everybody. He makes everybody look minuscule next to him, and he's got
a real life superhero, man.
He's unstoppable, man. Like you need like 2 or 3 people to stop that guy.
Yeah,
like nobody could get past him.
20 and a half sacks in 2012. He had 39 tackles for losses, 69 solo tackles. It was numbers are amazing.
Monster. And again, a 3-4 defensive end. If you don't know, like their job is not to rush the passer. Their job is to stuff the run. But he kind of like Reggie White, man. Like, because Reggie White played the same position, but he was just great at sacking the quarterback.
Nobody could stop it. Nobody could stop it. Like even though like he wasn't the fastest guy out there, like if he was coming at you, there was nothing you could do.
Especially that bull rush it's over.
It's over. Yeah,
his swim technique is just so technical, man. It was so much fun to watch that year.
Yeah, and like it's only year 2. He was how old? 22, 23 years old.
Yeah,
22.
And that was the year where like he blew up so much.
He was an MVP candidate, like, and he's a defensive player. Like you don't see that often, man.
Well, he won Defensive Player of the Year that season, as a year 2 player, and I'm sure we'll get onto the rest in a minute. But he went to dominate the next 4 years as well.
He did.
And like you said, Carlos, I feel like that team was the Super Bowl caliber team.
It was
2011 team and the 2015, 2016 team, like, because they still had the same elite defense. It's just what held us back was quarterback.
Yeah,
quarterback play. Yeah,
right before the injuries and everything started to catch up.
So 2012, JJ Watt's going off 20 and a half sacks that year. He was like the production was there. Definitely hard to talk about. Like you said, he got his defensive rookie of the year award. I mean, excuse me, defensive
Player of the year.
Player of the Year award.
I think if we make the playoffs, he makes MVP because he lost Aaron Rodgers because we missed the playoffs because we were 9-7 that year. We missed it.
Right.
Beat the Jacksonville.
Yeah, but the quarterbacks always have an upper hand on most positions.
I think he had a strong case to win it that year.
Definitely.
If we made the playoffs, but we didn't make the playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers did. And Aaron Rodgers had a so-so year for him, and he still won him. Like, I guess.
That was back when the media was really on the Aaron Rodgers bandwagon then.
Yes.
Like a lot.
So 2013, the following year, JJ Watt did not produce as much for one reason only. He separated his shoulder, which resulted in like a torn labrum and his bicep, rotator cuff. He was just hurt.
It's still pretty good stats though.
He had 10.5. I think he had 10.5 sacks that year, if I'm not mistaken. And by week 7 is when he got hurt.
Yeah, 65 tackles still. Hit the quarterback 46 times.
Yeah. His stats were still amazing with that. And
with one shoulder. With one shoulder.
And, is that when he came back with the brace?
Yeah, with the brace. Iconic, dude. Iconic.
Knee brace. He wears a knee brace on his arm.
He has to wear a knee brace on his arm. You know, the ones that you get when you tear an ACL, that's how he has to wear that in his arm.
His arm is bigger than
his arm is a leg. That man's arm is a leg. Yeah. And so, 2013, those stats weren't as good. But guess what? The man was playing injured. He was injured, and he was still playing. He did not miss a single snap. Or in that time, he played every single snap.
He started every game. Every game.
Like, he started every single game. Usually, guys go out and take a breather or whatever. Nope. My man was there every day. He was hardworking individual. Was there every day.
Still is, man.
Still is. 2014 comes along. We get Fitzmagic as a quarterback. Okay. Oh no, I take that back. We had Ryan. I think we had Ryan Mallett and Brian Hoyer, something like that.
Hoyer the Destroyer.
Hoyer the Destroyer and Ryan Mallett.
That man destroyed my liver that season.
Yeah. That's I think when the Texans had Bill O'Brien as head coach. We had Texans were on Hard Knocks that year. They were featured on Hard Knocks that year. And you got to see a side of JJ Watt, a little bit more of a personal side on that Hard Knocks episode, which was still rated one of the best Hard Knocks in HBO, was the one with the Texans because a lot of things were happening with Brian Hoyer and Ryan Mallett at that time. We had a, how do you call it? Of course, I think Ryan Mallett's still asleep right now. Yeah. So JJ Watt, you get to see how this man trains. He was there. He was like there early in the morning training, saying hi to the fans, signing autographs, doing all this stuff. And then at the end of training camp, when everybody's basically gone, this man's out there still putting in the work, still, practicing by himself. So that kind of goes to show you the work ethic that JJ Watt has. He put in the work and became what he is now. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, as you said.
Without a doubt.
And so you got to see that side. You got to see a different side of JJ Watt, which I think is needed because you have to, at the end of the day, you have to humanize people too. People are, we're all humans, and you got to see how this man is during practice. Now I'm sure you didn't get to see all of it, but you got to see, enough.
You got a deeper view, basically.
You got a deeper view. Yeah, of exactly how it is in training camp. And that year, JJ Watt was put in the offense. They put him in a few times as a tight end because that was one of his positions he played in college. He scored a few touchdowns. One of them I remember was against the Browns. Ryan Mallett for some reason Ryan Mallett threw a dime at JJ Watt, caught him right there in the end zone. Boom, JJ Watt scores a touchdown. That was great.
How many touchdowns did he score in his career? Like 4 or 5, right?
He had 5 just in that season alone. 5.
He had 5 in that season? Jeez.
Yeah, three receiving touchdowns, a pick 6, and I think a fumble return.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. For a guy that specializes on defense.
Defensive end.
Every time I would see him running with the ball, like I couldn't help but smile, man.
Yeah. I think is that the one where he picked off EJ Manuel from the Bills?
Yes. I got that game.
What did he run? How many yards was that? How many yards was that?
It was like 86 yards. It was,
Yeah,
it was
It
like,
was
yeah,
like
like
the whole
86
field, dude. It was
field.
amazing.
You got to see him like just.
yeah. Phil's Mafia got me drunk in the parking lot of that game also.
Yeah.
And that was arguably 2014 was arguably the best season of his career, right?
Well, that's the year he also duplicated his 20 and a half sacks. He's the first NFL player to duplicate more than 20 sacks in a season. Only first NFL player to do that.
And that's the year where he won his second Defensive Player of the Year
Correct.
in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Insane.
Yeah. And he it's just amazing what he had done up to that point, 2015, that's when we got Fitzmagic, is that correct, Rios? The year right after. And things were fine, things were okay, they weren't good, but you had that Romeo Crennel defense. I think Romeo Crennel came in the picture, if I'm not mistaken.
That's his first year, I believe, and the defense turned it, because I think with Wade Phil's defense, they're good for like maybe they got like a 3-4 year window, and then they get figured out, and then he moves on to the next spot, because eventually you figure it out. They're gonna 3-4. You're basically blitzing and playing man. There's no like exotic coverages. There's no disguising it. You know exactly what's gonna. It's a simple defense, but simple but effective.
Exactly. So, yeah, and that's one of those things that you are always excited to see JJ Watt. That's what the people went to, People went to go see JJ Watt, and he was making his appearances at the Astros games too. Like he was being, he was throwing out pitches at the Astros game when the Astros were just not good at all. They were losing those 100 games, and JJ Watt was there at those games. He was throwing.
Let's not talk about that. Let's not.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's
he was grandmaster for the rodeo. Like
yeah, he was. Oh man. And it's still putting elite numbers.
Yeah, what was it? Do you have a stats right there, Poppy?
17 and a half sacks that season.
Almost tripled it up again.
Basically, 57 tackles, hit the quarterback 50 times. That was one of his best. Like even with the change in management and everything, 5 years of if you want to count his rookie year as a really good season for a rookie, you can, but 5 years of just domination from JJ, man.
Right.
And
that 5-year window, man. It's
we talk about like players like Altuve and Correa turning the Astros from nothing into something. We talk about James Harden when he came to the Rockets after Jao and T-Mac didn't pan out for us, and turning them into a winning team, turning the Rockets into a winning team. You talk about, like, you got to put JJ in that conversation in Houston folklore
for sure.
of players who just out of nowhere with no expectation whatsoever, and they just dominate, not just individually, but making the whole team better. And that's just from a sporting standpoint, because the things that he was doing for the city, like you said, like people were falling in love with the guy, and still are, even after he left for Arizona. Like he's still a Houston Texan through and through, man.
H-Town through and through, man.
Straight up, man. Straight up. 5 years. That's the year he got, even with the dip in sacks, 17 and a half is still elite.
I mean, you can't even call it that. Like
exactly, taking his third Defensive Player of the Year. That's when I was like, dude, like this guy is untouchable. Like he's like you said, Rios, life-size Superman. Like that guy was the guy, and those years are just like amazing for like
going back
to just think about.
I know I had said 2015, but going back to 2014 really quick, I forgot to share a memory that I feel like it is important to share of JJ Watt. I don't know if you guys remember, that's the year that the Titans had Zach Mettenberger as a quarterback.
I know
JJ Watt just completely owned this man. This man is still seeing JJ Watt in his dreams.
He had him in his back pocket the whole time. Man.
Yeah, he was sacked so many times by JJ Watt. I can't even remember.
I think like
10 of those 20 sacks. Yeah, half of those sacks go to Mettenberger, and that's that one game that I think Mettenberger was taking like selfies in the Titans locker room before the game started or whatever, and then like JJ Watt sacks him, and then he does the pose, like he's pretending to take a
selfie.
selfie to get back at
that
back
one.
at it. I
That
thought
was
that was hilarious, and he said,
Been
what he
paid,
said,
you know?
yeah, it was just funny. Like that was a little memory there from 2014. And 2015, you gave us, he almost made those 20 sacks, 17 and a half. Is that correct?
17 and a half, man. Still
17 and
elite.
a half.
Still
So
elite.
now let's look over to 2016. Okay.
Well, can we put 2016 and 2017 together, because those are just dud years.
Well, yes. I was gonna ask you, can you read the stats for 2016 for JJ Watt really quick?
For 2016, man, he only started 3 games.
He was injured, wasn't he?
He got hurt.
Was that the first back problem? Like when we had surgery, he only started 3 games, 1.5 sacks, 1 solo tackle. Like he basically did not play that year, you know, and it was sad. Out of after, and that's why
that was the
that's
back
why I
injury.
mentioned like putting both 15 and 16 and 17 together, is because those 2 years is almost like we didn't see him on the field.
Well, 17, there is a good memory with him on the field.
I mean, yeah, I know where you're going with that, but I mean, he only played 8 games in 2 years.
He had the surgeries during those years. Those were the 2016, 2017 years. He had the surgeries, and that's when the media again began to start throwing little monkey wrenches in there and saying, "Is JJ Watt done? Like, is this the end of JJ Watt? Whatever, you know." And they started throwing monkey wrenches and
I mean,
things
back
like
injuries are really hard to come back.
They are, which they are. In all retrospect, yes, the back injuries are very hard to come to deal with, especially what was it, a herniated disc, if I'm not mistaken, was one of them.
Yeah,
that's tough. You know, that's a tough one. So I understand why the Houston local and even the NFL itself was very, you know, they thought JJ Watt just was done after that. Like that was it. That's the most that he had given us up until 2017.
But do you think because from a fan's perspective, talking to my friends or whatever, we used to watch the Texans or whatever, we never really like stopped supporting the guy. Like we were never like, we never stopped, like we never said like, oh, JJ's done, let's think about the next move, like let's see if we can trade him when he comes back, type of thing. Like, no, JJ was already, he had already cemented himself with the fans. So I just wanted to know what you guys thought. Obviously, we didn't know each other at the time,
right? There were times where I did feel like, oh man, this might be it. Like this might be the last. It does go through your mind. If we're all going to be honest about it, it does go through your mind. And if I hear no, that never went through my mind, I don't think we're being completely honest.
That never went through my mind.
Because it went through my mind. I thought to myself, I think this is it for JJ Watt. I hope he comes back, but this actually might be it, because like I said, it's a herniated disc. It's a tough surgery to come back from, and then that was 2016, and then 2017 again. You didn't see him as much as well.
More of the same. Didn't get a single sack that season. Only played 5 games.
Right. It felt that okay, maybe 2018. We're like, it just depends on how he does in 2018, and I felt like if he has a really bad 2018 year or somewhat similar, I think that's when we're like, he might not come back for 2019. You know what I mean? And so, can you read the stats for 2018 and see how those were?
Dude, 2018 it's almost like the surgeries never happened. It's almost like the injuries never happened.
How many sacks?
Played every single game. 16 sacks, which is, it wasn't obviously not his best, but coming back from 2 years of not playing football, really. He got 47 tackles, got to the quarterback 25 times, like hitting the quarterback. And I believe he came in second in comeback player of the year, if I'm not mistaken, right behind Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's like the injuries just slowed him down just a tad bit. Yeah. But he was still one of the best defensive ends in the whole NFL.
And then even as a fan, again, from a fan's perspective here, like
that filled us with joy, dude. Like that was amazing.
It did fill us with joy that he came back after the missing those 2 years, those 2 seasons.
Let me ask you something.
Back surgery.
Let me ask you, when did Harvey happen?
Well, that's what I was going to lead into. 2017.
Was that 2017 going on to 2018, right?
Right. So as he's recovering from that back injury, JJ Watt, this Houston, Texas gets hit by Hurricane Harvey. Flooding was just all over the place.
Were you guys in A-Leaf when that happened?
So yeah. I've lived in A-Leaf all my life.
I couldn't leave.
I was in Katy at the time, and I was trapped for 4 days.
So let's see. So Rios, share before we continue on. Because this is important to share in context. What was your situation like in Harvey? How bad did you get hit?
So it was pretty bad in our neighborhood because it already floods pretty easily, but like the water got up to our door, and we're like, if it gets any higher, it's gonna get into the house. I mean, the roof was leaking. It was, it was pretty scary. Like we didn't know what was gonna happen. The water kept coming up. It was pretty scary times, and I had a broken foot at the time, so I couldn't really move too much. So I'm like, man,
the water gets in, I'm done for.
Can't swim. And so
it was a very scary time. Like you didn't know what was gonna happen. Like
how long were you with it? Yeah. The thing is, the city itself hadn't seen anything like it. Like sure, we had hurricanes, but never like this before. We had I remember the last time we had a flooding. I was a child. I was like in 7th grade. It was 2001. It wasn't even a hurricane. It was Allison. Remember that? It was a tropical storm. But it flooded. It flooded so much, and that was in 2001. It was a summer when it happened, and I was a kid when that happened. That's the last time I saw that much water. But it didn't even compare to how Harvey hit the city of Houston. So you were trapped. How long were you without power at that time, Rios?
Oh, I can't even remember, to be honest with you. It wasn't as bad as everybody else, but it was. I want to say maybe
thankfully,
yeah.
Well,
thankfully, thank God. It was only maybe a couple days, if even that.
Yeah. Poppy, Poppy, share your experience with Harvey.
So kind of like what Rio said, man. Like the water got all the way to our door, and we actually had sandbags from a business we used to run, my family and I, and we actually barricaded the door, praying that the water wouldn't get in. Like, and we had like a lot of cars because we're a big family, you know that, right. And we had a lot of cars, and we put them all up like as close to the garage as we could. Like the backside of my car got completely like flooded in. I had to replace all the insulation after the fact. And the biggest thing though, thankfully, like we never lost power. Like I said, we were in Katy, even though it flooded pretty bad. I don't think we got the worst of it, thank God. But there was this family that had just moved in that weekend.
Oh no!
And it was a Venezuelan family. It was like two sisters, like an older sister and a younger sister, that had just moved in, and like they had nothing, dude. Like, and theirs was a 1-story house, and they were freaking out because they didn't know anybody in the area or anything. And my dad, God bless his heart, he's like the nicest man ever. Like, he saw them. They had a little boy as well. I think it was the kid of the oldest sister, maybe like a 3-year-old toddler or something like that. And my dad, him and I, we went over there and like, hey, do you guys are you guys okay? Like, we had a 2-story house at the time. Like, if it gets into the house, we can still, stay dry up in the top. So if you want, just grab whatever you can or whatever. So we helped them out, and we were crossing the street, man, and the water was like up to my thighs. Man. And Houston water, man, that thing was a dark brown. I didn't even want to.
It was Galveston
water.
And then exactly, and then you in the news they were saying like, oh, watch out for because alligators from the bayou, or whatever, were like seen floating around, and I'm like, I swear to God,
if I see an alligator, I'm turning it into boots.
I'm about to get freaking what is it, like tornado roll or whatever?
Yeah,
but yeah, no, dude, we took them in, and we spent about 3.5, almost 4 days completely trapped. Like, thankfully we still had power, we had internet and all that stuff for the most part.
But you're in the house, can't leave.
But we couldn't leave, dude. And like we only had so much food.
Yeah.
We had a big family, but we took 3 more people in. So it was scary times, like, and all you could do is just watch the news. That's all you could do
all day. Like, you were worried about running out of food.
I was low key just like playing FIFA in my room for most of it. But
of course you were,
dude. I was like 15 or whatever. I don't care.
I was so lucky. Our roof was leaking, so we had to keep changing out the bucket. Because
thankfully, our stuff wasn't too bad because our house was pretty new. But yeah, dude, it was like about 4 days, man. And you hear like how bad it was, like downtown, how bad it was, like in the city itself.
No,
And
exactly.
I
So-
can't even imagine what
Yeah.
y'all's experience was like.
So mine wasn't bad. Personally, it was. At the time I lived upstairs in an apartment, so it wasn't bad. I figured if we get water up in the second, in the second floor, I'm like, all right, we're definitely screwed.
Dude,
Yeah.
my brother-in-law was sending me pictures of
Mhm.
his car and I think his mom's car
Yeah.
gradually getting covered. Like
Yeah.
to the point, the last picture he sent me, like all you could see was the roof.
It's like a time frame of
Yeah,
like the
I-
car
dude,
getting
and
covered.
I
Yeah.
was just like, dude,
time lapse.
Same
So-
thing with the neighbors' cars, man. Like all of them just
Gone.
gone, dude.
I think
Gone.
the water gets to everyone's door. Like if this water gets any higher, and like when mom's house, like it's like at a slope, and the fact they got that high is like
Yeah,
it was
That's
terrifying. I'm not gonna lie, man. I
So
was-
for those of you who don't know why Houston gets like that whenever it rains, we're below sea level, and so
yeah, and the city
If
was
it
not
rain-
built to handle
yeah, the city
a
was
flood
not.
at all.
Yeah, it's basically built over a swamp if you think about it. So
Yeah, and it's just
city.
concrete, so the water
Yeah.
has nowhere to go.
yeah, and so the thing is, like I said, at the time I was living in an upstairs apartment, so we were okay. There was a grocery store right across the street, and so I was able, even if I didn't have a way there, at least I couldn't drive there. Like the street was flooded, and once the water receded, if you needed extra like any food, you could walk over there. But the lines to get into the store, you would have to wait at least about 3 to 4 hours to get into the store. And then remember, they're running on minimal power. So they're like running on backup generators. So the store is like half dimmed. There's like extra security so nobody starts like looting stuff. And then
That was
especially
the other thing. Yeah,
especially because we live in A-Leaf. Yeah? No,
Yeah.
no, I'm kidding. The SWAT, baby, SWAT. No. And so it's no, I'm kidding. And so
He's not. Totally not.
he's really not kidding at all.
Hey,
One
man.
bit.
I love
Not
it. I
the
love
slightest.
it. And so it was like they were completely like it almost felt like surreal walking in there and seeing the lights half dimmed. But I will tell you this, the community itself, like I saw the definition of unselfishness. Like I would see
Okay.
people just being helpful towards each other, and I think that's what brought a lot of the city closer to each other. There were people out there because in Texas we all have big trucks. Like everybody has big trucks, Rios. People have trucks, so they're lifted and all that, and people were using those trucks to help people get out of neighborhoods that they were stuck.
Evacuate completely. Yeah.
Help people evacuate, which I thought
There was
that
actually
the
a
coolest
boat,
thing.
a boat that came by our neighborhood,
Yeah,
asking people, like, hey, if you guys lost power, if you guys need to leave, come with us or whatever. We opted to stay because it was too many of us, but it was that bad everywhere, man.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the thing though, like it brought people together. That's why Harvey was such a thing, and it was the devastation, the destruction that it caused. Like at my, the job that I have now, there's a bunch of, it got hit really bad because it's in an area where it's like where it gets really flooded, and so unfortunately, like a lot of families had to evacuate that housing neighborhood because it was hit incredibly rough. I remember when we were finally allowed to go back to work, I would drive by that neighborhood and there was tons of like trash on everybody's lawn because of all the things that got destroyed by the
people
water.
ripped their carpets off,
Ripped
out
the
of
carpets and everything. And those houses that had like the wooden floors and the water got there. There was a house I remember, like because of the wooden floors and the house was made out of bricks. The wooden floors actually, when the wood gets really wet, it expands after it dries out. So it actually expanded and it was actually pushing the bricks. It was you could see that because I remember I went to go help some people also move things out. People that needed it, coworkers that needed help. We went because I was fine. Like there was nothing for us, a little roof leakage, but that was fine. But compared to other people that needed help, I remember going and helping a coworker just move things out of the way because it was things that and it was just sad seeing like family pictures, memories of things that they had done just completely destroyed by this phenomenon that had happened that we hadn't seen here in forever. Like, and so that brought the community together. And part of that, going back to Watt, he did the fundraisers. You could see him helping out. delivering food supplies to people. Like he was on it.
so
Like
tough.
he jumped on it without even any hesitation.
And it's crazy because the goal initially was 125,000, and it just skyrocketed. Like
The crazy thing is like the guy's not even from here, but
He's not from Houston.
he's done so much for the city
Mm.
that you wouldn't even I wouldn't even blame you if you thought that the guy was actually from A-Leaf, you know, like
Yeah.
like he's been here. He was here for 10 years.
Well, at that point, he had been here like 6 years.
So yeah, at that point, yeah, and like he jumped on it like crazy, man. Like nobody else did. Like even our own government.
Shocking.
Well, that's something else.
Yeah, I don't want to get too political.
Yeah,
but,
we're not gonna get political here, but yeah,
man, JJ did more for this city, like beyond football, beyond sports.
And that's what JJ meant to the city. Like
and that's why we love him, dude. That's why we love him. Not for the 20 and a half sack seasons, even though those were like amazing.
No,
three defensive player of the year. None of that.
It's him as a human being, bro.
As a human being, dude. Damn.
You can't, it can't be replicated. Like it's amazing how
Did you
much.
Did you guys see the video that the Arizona Cardinals posted? Man, I don't dude. That was he was balling, man. But I was right there with him. I was right there with him, and I was like, damn.
Bobby, do you have his thing we talked about 2017? And the whole reason why we told the audience this our listeners these are three different stories is because even though we all had three different scenarios of what happened to us during Hurricane Harvey, because a lot of people don't understand what it is. They saw things on TV, but nobody really experienced it like we did, you know? And so we heard three different versions of how we dealt with Harvey. And the reason why we did that, because we wanted to give you context on how bad this thing was and how JJ Watt stepped up to help. He was a big part of that by helping people out. Now, of course, he was criticized by others, whatever. Every time you're successful at something, you're always going to be criticized. Always. That comes with the territory.
I think it's criticized someone to raise $37 million for a city that was underwater for about a week. Like, how do you criticize that? Like, how do you go to sleep at night? Yeah, let me talk. We talk mess about this guy that raised millions for a whole entire city.
Yeah, and so
they're like, but can he win a ring?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a negativity. That's the downside to it.
The haters, man, the haters.
Yeah. And so now let's move a year after that, 2018. Do you have the stats on 2018, Poppy?
I think we already went over those.
Did we say 2018? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, 2019.
Let me say one more thing on 2017. Right. That first game, the home opener against the Jaguars.
Oh, describe that. I wasn't there.
In 2017, yeah.
When he came out waving the text, like, bro, like the whole stadium was just
yes.
With the bull blowing through the nose or whatever.
Because we had just gone to the Harvey.
It's just
the moment itself of him waving the flag, coming out for that Jaguars game, that Liberty White game, just waving it out, iconic.
Iconic, man.
Iconic. I still get chills thinking I was at that game, and man, I was like, just considering everything everyone had went through at that point.
The year before, right? The year before, how literally a year after, isn't it? A year after.
It was 2017. It was a couple weeks.
Oh, it was a week after that. Okay, so after all the devastation the city had gone through, the first sign of relief, the first sign where people, okay, we're starting to go out again, we're starting to live our normal lives again from Harvey. You go to that Jaguars game. And you see JJ Watt just coming out, and that just made you feel like, hey, we're gonna be good.
Like I'm ready for a brick wall, and then Tom Savage happened, and
hey, you know what? That's that. So okay, so 2019 then, Poppy, you got any stats for that?
So after 2018, I feel like that was the last of what I would call like prime JJ.
So going back to the surgeries. Sorry, I just remembered that. That's why going back to that, as a fan, after the surgeries, you just kind of knew in the back of your head that JJ just wasn't going to be able to replicate how he just did, because coming back from those surgeries, did he do great?
Yeah, 2 years of not playing ball.
Yeah,
2018 he balled out, man.
Yeah, 2018. So then you knew that after that it was probably going to be a decline. It wasn't going to be to the level where we're used to seeing it. But that also comes with age, though. Yeah, it also comes with age. So
he started off 2019 as a 30-year-old. So
right,
you know what I'm saying. But Yeah, like after Prime JJ, 2019, he only played 8 games. That's when I believe the back issues started coming back again.
Yeah, I think it was a Chiefs game, wasn't it, Rios? Was it the Chiefs
Was
game?
it the Chiefs game?
It was a Chiefs game where he got
Yeah, he got injured and he left the game. Like I want to say, like before halftime or after. It was like
he went
it
to
was
the IR.
Yeah, he only played 8 games. Only 4 sacks on the season. 15 tackles on the season. Like it wasn't a very good year, but it was injuries.
Yeah.
And that was that's the other side of the story about JJ, because if you can only imagine on 2016, 2017, those injury riddled seasons, what he could have done if he actually stayed healthy. Like we'll be talking about maybe a 4 or 5 time defensive player of the year.
All-time sack record, something like that.
Exactly, all-time sack record. Like I know everybody says how TJ Watt number wise, stat wise, is probably better than JJ at this point, but only because you put if he replicates 16 sacks on both of those seasons, there's not even a question. There's not even a question. It's not even up for debate. I know you put on Twitter today.
Yeah.
You
got some views.
Which the defensive end? Yeah, because I mean we were just spitting out ideas. Which the best defensive end of the last decade?
Yeah, no, it was let me show you.
You had some people on there, right?
Yeah. So let me show you what Poppy's talking about on our official Twitter page. I'm gonna share the thing with you.
There you go.
Again, you could always for those of you listening right now, you can always like vote on it.
Follow on Twitter.
Follow on Twitter, of course. Hold on 1 second. And I'll show you the handle right now. It'll actually show the handle. So
no, the other way. The other way.
Yeah, the other way. God, do you know your left and right? So we posted a what if scenario. Like if you watch like the Marvel stuff or whatever, what if your team's D-line needs some serious help? Timeline doesn't matter. These are your only options. Who are you taking? You got Warren Sapp, JJ Watt, how do you call it? Aaron Donald, and you got Reggie White. So
Aaron Donald was the one that when you put it on there, I was like, ooh.
That was a tough one.
That's a tough one.
That 5-year window JJ Watt had, I mean,
on parallel.
It is.
So these are the guys, and like I said, we did pretty good. We're like at 29,500, whatever. It's pretty cool. So if you want to,
next time you should actually do a poll on there.
I know. I don't know if you can do pictures and polls at Tampa. We'll see. But nonetheless, did he leave 2020?
Let's stick with 2019. Playoff game against the Bills. He comes back that game.
Oh, he did come back that game.
That is when he came back. Yeah. Like,
all right, talk about it, Real.
We were getting dog walk. We were losing 16-0, and then Deshaun Watson scores a touchdown, and then Buffalo is about to score another touchdown. And then he gets a sack on Josh Allen, and that just changed the tone of the game, man. Like the whole place just lit up.
He only got 2 sacks on that playoff run, and like that one was the biggest, I would say.
Yeah, it changed the momentum.
It really did, because we would have been, it would have been over at that point if they scored another touchdown, and we saw how the game ended. 1 in overtime.
Yeah, do you remember that 20? I think it was the 2017 game. Sorry, going back to that one when Monday Night Football was the Bengals versus the Texans, and JJ Watt just completely speared that lineman.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious.
Oh man, that looked
game
like
over.
Put on TV,
WWF or whatever, man.
Yeah,
they didn't even show it on TV. You're like, man,
when was that game? Because one of the most iconic pictures of JJ is like when he broke his nose or whatever, and he's got like
it was against the Seahawks in 2012.
Yeah.
2012, right? That was like his probably his best year ever, man. That picture is so iconic, man. There's really so many moments. There's so many moments with JJ.
The definition of a football player, right there, JJ Watt on that one.
Who needs a helmet, bro? Like
a helmet.
Just scowling, blood just pouring down his face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, 2019 regular season, like we said, only 8 games, only 4 sacks.
Yeah, and then so after that, he didn't come back on 2020, right? Or he did?
No, he did. He played every single game in 2020.
So that was the last game, the 2020 game. So what was his stats on that one?
So at that point, he was 31, and that was, I'm trying to remember. Like that wasn't a very good team, right? Like we had just.
So that's when the stuff with Jackie's, the Bill O'Brien stuff was.
The Bill O'Brien stuff, East everything or whatever.
And so there's a thing about that, and now it was never confirmed. It was always through the.
Allegedly.
through through the media.
Grapevine.
Supposedly, now again, it's all speculation. I don't know if it's true or not. Supposedly, Watt got into it with Bill O'Brien, because I don't know if he was tired of the whole whatever. And then at the time, I remember it was like he got into it with Bill O'Brien. It might not be true, but they said he got into it with Bill O'Brien, and that's what caused Bill O'Brien's demise. It was that game, I think, where all coaches,
It was the Vikings game.
We were the Vikings game because they took the pictures, right? Like all the previous head coaches for the Texans. Well, not all of them, but like it had Dom Capers, they had Gary Kubiak at the time, and then they had Bill O'Brien. The 3 Texans head coaches took a picture all together because I think Dom Capers was with the Vikings, I think, at that time.
Yeah, he was.
But Dom Capers was the very first Texans head coach. And so they all took a picture together. Like that was all 3 Texans head coaches, right, at the time, took a picture, and I think it was right after that game Bill O'Brien gets let go.
Dude, I remember I was at work doing some training, and we were almost in like a classroom setting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like me and about like maybe 20 other people, and I'm sitting like front row. Our boss or whatever is like telling us, like, training us or doing whatever bosses do. And then I'm just on my phone, I'm just on Twitter, and I just go, the Texans just fired Bill O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and the whole like room explodes. Like, no, you're kidding, man. Like, what? No. Like, I feel like people were pulling beer out of nowhere. Like, oh,
yeah. And so with that in retrospect, so again, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I'm just saying what was said. And the reason why I know that it was said was because there was a lot of people on Twitter saying, dude, build a statue of JJ Watt right now. That's when the Texans were today at the end of the day, a statue, because like that was when everybody had it up to here with Bill and all the time management, all the bad decisions. It was at the height of all that.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that season, the Texans and JJ, I think they mutually parted ways, and he goes to the Cardinals. And I think that's when he joins D-Hop over there with the Cardinals.
Was Hopkins? I think JJ went there first, right? And then Hopkins.
No, it was Hopkins.
Was it the other way around?
Yeah, Hopkins went first, and then it was JJ. And you know what's crazy is that at that moment, you knew, like, you know what, I think JJ is, chasing the ring, because I felt like, I don't know if at the time the Cardinals were getting a little competitive or whatnot.
Competitive maybe, but I don't like, that's not where I wanted him to go.
He takes the bag, and I don't blame him. At his age, secure the bag for you.
No, yeah, and that was probably a great decision, because I kind of wanted him to go with the Steelers so he can play with like all 3 brothers.
Well, that was speculation also that JJ at the time, before he went to the Cardinals, but he was going to go over there with the Steelers.
Can you imagine JJ and TJ Watt in the same team?
And Derek, man. Like all 3 of them. That would have been kind of cool if you think about it.
That would have been amazing. When's the last time 3 brothers played on the same team?
Right. Well, the Seahawks.
Not 3 brothers.
Is it 3 brothers?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
3 brothers. Yeah, I'm talking 3 brothers.
I meant 2. I apologize. Yeah, I thought you meant 2. Yeah. No, and that's the thing though. Like, even though JJ had gone to a different team, as a Houstonian, after everything I'd done with the city,
always rooting for him.
Like, you always rooted the best. Well, you always wanted the best for me. Like, you know what? If he gets a ring somewhere else, he deserves it. Because obviously at the time, obviously when he left the Texans, it felt like it wasn't in good terms. No matter what it was said, it didn't feel like it was in good terms.
Maybe with the franchise, but with the city, man, like the city always stood behind him.
Oh, still to this day, I remember he was playing for Arizona. To this day, he's playing for Arizona, and then like he was quoting like some Houston rap lyrics, like, you know what I mean? Like, he was still throwing that Houston stuff, even though he played for Arizona.
You can't, even if you're not from here, like the city has a way of like bringing you in. You just embrace the culture, and it doesn't matter where you go, man. You have that culture with you.
You can take a kid out of Houston, but you can't take the Houston out of the kid.
Yeah,
and if you look at his stats on this last season, 2022, he started every single game, 12 and a half sacks, which it's a far cry from his 5 years of dominance, but still pretty solid for a 33-year-old.
Yeah,
I would say. 30 tackles, hit the quarterback 25 times. Like, on his way out, I mean, there's worse ways of hanging up the boots. There's players who completely disappear from the league.
Yeah.
But JJ, no, just being the man he is with the work ethic, and he took a team like the Houston Texans, who, like you said, bottom of the barrel when it comes to defense, and he completely transformed them in just within a year almost.
We're getting prime time. We were getting 3, 4, 5 prime time games a year. Like that was unheard of as a Texas fan because we were, no one wanted to see us play.
Yeah.
And it's such a shame because kind of like you said, Carlos, like my fandom with the Texans kind of started when JJ was there.
Yeah.
So to see him leave,
it hurt. It was like a part of
it
you was
really
gone.
hurt, man. It really hurt because I feel like at the time the team was the front office was all over the place, like we talked about.
It felt like, and I'm gonna tell you this, and y'all let me know if you agree or not. It felt like, y'all remember at the end of Toy Story 3 when Andy's giving up Woody. He's like, and you're holding like JJ Watt.
We're just waving by, sitting on the steps.
The Texans are holding JJ Watt, like, and this one was my favorite. So many memories. Take care of him, kind of a thing. And he gives him to the Arizona Cardinals. And then like you look back and he's like, so long, partner. It's just that's what I felt like when he left. And so
look at you with the good analogies. It's about time, sir.
What'd you say?
Look at you with the good analogies. It's about
time. Did you cry? Did you feel it right?
Dude, and then looking at his career stats, dude, 114 and a half sacks.
I think
in 12 years.
I think he's a 24th most defensive player with that many sacks.
And the thing is, like, he basically didn't play for 2 years. And like 2019, he only played 8 games. 2021, he only played 7 games.
And then 2013, he played hurt the whole year.
Exactly. So just imagine if luck would have been on his side, he would have stayed healthy. He definitely would have been like top 10, I would think.
Easily.
Yeah. He got over 100 sacks with Houston in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, man.
Incredible. Boys, honestly, like after all that, it's just I'm glad from what I took from there was like the memories that Watt gave us. And honestly, that's the end of the day. That's all it is. It's you just enjoy the memories that
he's a Houston legend forever, man.
Houston legend forever. And you know what? And I don't honestly think he's done with football. I'm willing to we see this guy coaching eventually one day.
You see him coaching?
Of course. I could see him coaching. I
low-key see him with a microphone in his hand.
I see him as an analyst, man. He'd be so
analyst.
Maybe an analyst or like I don't know, maybe in a podcast.
Like a play-by-play guy like Peyton Manning doing a show with Eli, kind of a thing.
Him
and his brothers.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
All right, but as you can see, now that he's gone, he's retired from it. It's gonna be weird not seeing that 99 out there anymore. No matter if it's for the Texans or for some other team.
But as fans, we celebrate every single memory he gave us.
Yeah. And what I recommend for anybody out there watching, if you didn't see JJ Watt in his prime, go on YouTube, get a 6-pack, watch some JJ Watt highlights. That's a good night right there.
Dude, just watch his 2012, 2014 highlights.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've had this jersey for like 10 years. Still fits.
Like how nobody cared about that one. I'm just kidding. Well, yes, Rios, we know
you're wait, Rios. Say one more time, I'll react. Say one more time.
Let's react.
I've had this jersey for 10 years.
I lied.
Yeah, no, nobody cared. See, no, that was the dead sound. Was nobody giving a crap. We lost viewers because of that right now.
The second time was almost worse than the first one.
Yeah.
Wow. I was just messing with you.
Yeah, I know.
But we love JJ, man. We love JJ, and I hope we I hope he still visits Houston. I hope we can still see him at Astros games, Rockets games.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see JJ Watt in our podcast, just us hanging out with the boys, just talking.
I'll be football.
Awesome. That would be great.
I don't think that could ever happen, but that would be.
Yeah, awesome. You know what? It could. We don't know. One day, hopefully, we can get JJ Watt in here, and if we ever do, JJ, you're more than welcome to come in. Invitations open. Your ball's in the court. Boom.
The ball's in
your court.
Whatever.
How am I foreign and I know the same?
I don't know.
You do?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know. Shut up. No one cares. Good thing this isn't live. No. Anyway, yeah, right.
It's not.
Nonetheless, JJ, you're more than welcome to come in here if you ever see this. Again, we'd love to have you on.
We love you, JJ. El boy.
Yeah. So nonetheless, down for the fitting. All right, y'all. Well, that's gonna be it. We're gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining us. This was good. I like their little little our career honoring for JJ Watt. A lot of good memories. And
Let me ask you guys one question before we leave it. Obviously, he never won a ring.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think 10, 15 years, 20 years down the line, people will look at him, he'll come up in conversation and people would say, oh, yeah, but he never won a ring, so why are we talking about him? Or do you think because of the things that he did, 3 Defensive Player of the Years in his first 5 years in the league, and just the longevity that he had, and, at 33, still giving you production with the Arizona Cardinals, do you think he's going to be one of those guys that people are going to say, like, no, he was unstoppable, unplayable, a legend, underrated at times, I would say, in the grand scheme of things? But do you think like 10, 15, 20 years from now, people are going to hold him to like disregard, or do you think like people will just, not consider him one of the top guys?
Absolutely not. So when it comes to defensive players, they don't judge them based on Super Bowls because, again, you're playing defense. That's a team award.
Hey, but defense wins championships, right?
Individually, like that 5-year run, there was not a more unstoppable player. I would argue in NFL history than his 5-year run. Like there was no one stopping that man.
I would argue, yeah.
Definitely.
And not just unstoppable on defense, as catching balls to the tight end. Like what defensive end does that? Like, come on.
He's a generational player, man. That's all it is. Generational player, one of the greatest of all time to do it.
The Texans will rue the day.
The Texans will rule the day that they got
Pizza Boy
JJ Watt. Remember that?
We definitely ruled it.
You know what he should do? He should quote that like on his Hall of Fame speech.
Oh, please! Who wrote that article? I like that guy needs to be banned.
Yeah, retired. Yeah. All right, y'all. That's gonna be it for our show today. I want to thank my 2 co-hosts, Papi and Rios, for joining me today on this evening and talking about reminiscing about JJ Watt. Thank you guys again for showing up. I appreciate y'all. Dan, if you hear us, I appreciate you. Thank you for having us here and allowing us to do this on your show as well. Thank you so much, bud. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see y'all when we see y'all. Peace.
Next week. Ciao.
Next week, y'all. Peace. Go JJ.